A lot of shooters flat out walked away from certain platforms over the last few years. Not because the guns were bad, but because the legal risk felt radioactive. Then 2026 hit, the rules flipped, and almost overnight, a bunch of platforms people avoided like the plague suddenly turned into clean, green light buys again. I'm Tommy from the Armory, and today I'm breaking down the guns that went from legally messy to fully cleared almost instantly, and why this shift cracked the door open for some of the most interesting builds we've seen in a long time. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe button, tap the bell, hit all the buttons down there. You don't have to, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me keep cranking out this kind of real-world gun talk for you guys. All right, let's get back to it. When I think of a risky gun that finally chilled out, the Q Honey Badger pistol is right at the top of that list. This thing was basically the poster child for ATF drama over what is a pistol and what looks too much like a rifle. You've got a super short 300 blackout barrel, right around 7 inches, on an AR-style receiver set, paired with that skeletonized rear brace that folds and keeps overall length insanely compact. It runs a direct impingement gas system tuned specifically for 300 blackout, so supers and subs both run clean, and it was designed from day one to play nice with a suppressor. Where things got spicy was the brace mess. Q ended up in an open fight with ATF over the Honey Badger pistol. Letters saying it was good, then reversals. Then, we're still evaluating, and that left a ton of owners feeling like they were one memo away from a felony. Shops hesitated to stock it. Buyers hesitated to swipe the card. And instead of being a solid 300 blackout personal defense weapon, the Honey Badger turned into a rolling legal test case. For a long time, anybody who asked me about it got the same answer. Cool gun, ugly regulatory clout. Once the brace environment settled down and brace pistols landed back in a more stable, pistol-recognized lane, the Honey Badger went from ATF magnet to legit option again. You still have to follow your state law. You still have to respect NFA rules. No cap. But from a risk standpoint, it finally feels like what it should have been all along. A purpose-built, compact 300 blackout pistol for suppressed work. That sets the tone for the high-end short-barreled PDW category. So let's balance that with something a lot more common in everyday gun safes. Sliding over into the 9mm lane, the CZ Scorpion 3+ Micro is exactly the kind of gun that felt like a gamble during the brace chaos. You're talking about a short 9mm pistol with a micro barrel, threaded muzzle, and a rear end clearly designed to accept a bracer stock kit. From the factory, you get last round bolt hold open, ambi controls, an improved mag release over the old Evo 3, and updated mags that work better with modern PCC setups. It's compact, runs double stacked 9mm mags, and it was built from day one to live as a small PDW style pistol, not a full-size carbine. The legal stress came from how ATF kept treating brace pistols with rifle-like features. A lot of folks saw the Scorpion Micro with a brace and worried a future letter would retroactively treat it like an unregistered SBR. That absolutely killed buyer confidence. Nobody wanted to dump money into a pistol that might suddenly need NFA registration or get them jammed up because a brace got reclassified. Shops slowed way down. Normal gun owners parked their cash. Once the brace environment cooled off and braced pistols settled back into a more stable pistol category, the Scorpion 3+ Micro went right back to being what it always should have been, a sensible PCC-style pistol for home defense, range time, or bag gun duty, as long as you follow your state rules and keep an eye on future ATF moves. Now let's stay in the PDW lane, but switch operating systems entirely. On the PCC side, the SIG MPX-K is what I always describe as a great gun with terrible timing. You're looking at a short 9mm pistol with roughly a 4.5-inch barrel, gas-operated with a rotating bolt instead of straight blowback. That means it shoots soft, stays flatter, and feels smoother than a lot of budget PCCs. Controls are straight AR style. It runs proprietary MPX mags, and the K model is built to stay compact for bag carry or home defense. From a hardware standpoint, it's solid, no cap. Where it got sketchy was the brace situation. Most MPX-K builds out there had folding or collapsible braces, and owners were watching ATF guidance swing back and forth, wondering if their pistol was about to be treated like an unregistered SBR. At that price point, that's a big ask. A lot of buyers stepped back and said, I like it, but I'm not volunteering as a test case. And honestly, I told people the same thing. With the brace environment cooling off in the 2025 setup, and brace pistols treated consistently again, the MPX-K finally makes sense. Now it's back where it belongs. A reliable 9mm PDW for shooters who want AR controls in a smaller, softer shooting package, as long as they stay plugged into state and federal changes. Let's drop the price bracket now. On the regular guy side of the list, the Power Stribog SP9 A3 is the go-to when someone wants a PDW without SIG money. You're looking at a Slovak-made 9mm pistol feeding from 20 or 30 round mags, with a short barrel around 8 inches, full-length top rail, M-lock up front, and a rear end built for braces or stocks. The A3 uses a delayed blowback system instead of straight blowback, so recoil and parts wear are better controlled, and it runs cleaner with a suppressor. For the price, it's a legit PCC-style pistol that works as a bag gun, truck gun, or bedside gun without feeling cheap. Where buyers got nervous was, again, the brace situation. Almost every Stribog A3 out there had a folding brace. And when ATF started playing games, this platform got dragged right into the anxiety. Nobody wanted a budget PDW to turn into an NFA headache. Once brace pressure eased up in the 2025 environment, the SP9 A3 went right back to being a smart buy. Now it's a solid entry-level PDW for shooters who want compact 9mm, decent ergonomics, and suppressor potential, as long as they stay current on the rules. Now let's step up in caliber. The PSA JAKL is what I point to when someone wants honey badger vibes without honey badger pricing. You get a monolithic upper from Palmetto, a long-stroke gas piston, and short barrel options in 300 blackout and 5.56 NATO, with the 300 blackout pistol landing right in that PDW sweet spot. Controls are AR-ish. It runs on a standard AR lower, and the whole system is built to be compact and suppressor-friendly from the start. The risk came from how people set them up. Most JAKL pistols online had side-folding braces or PDW rear setups. When brace rules went sideways, buyers slammed the brakes. Nobody wanted to drop money on a short-barreled, piston-driven 300 blackout pistol just to find out their brace turned it into an SBR overnight. For budget-conscious shooters, that was a hard no. Once the brace mess cooled off, the JAKL moved back into the worth-it column. Now it makes sense as a compact 300 blackout pistol with solid rail space, piston reliability, and factory support. Next up, a very familiar platform. Zion-15 pistols are what I think of when someone wants AR ergonomics without a 16-inch barrel. You're still in 5.56 NATO, direct impingement, standard AR controls, M-lock handguard, and a true pistol-length barrel. The only real differences were barrel length and the brace, which is exactly what got this format caught in the storm. During peak brace chaos, these guns made people nervous. Pistol lower, short 5.56 barrel. Brace that looks stockish. Between letters, lawsuits, and reversals, owners worried a normal Zion-15 pistol could suddenly be treated like an unregistered SBR. So a lot of folks stuck with rifles. Once the brace picture stabilized in 2025, the Zion pistol format went back to being straightforward. Now it fills the roles it was always meant for: compact home defense, truck gun duty, familiar AR parts and support. It no longer feels like you're signing up to be a guinea pig. Let's finish soft. A lot of people's first legal risk build wasn't a rifle at all. It was a quiet little .22 pistol with a can. Think Ruger Mark IV Tactical or Browning Buck Mark, factory-threaded barrel, paired with a lightweight .22 suppressor, cheap ammo, almost zero recoil. Real utility for training, pest control, and low-noise shooting where legal. The hesitation was paperwork. Dropping a tax stamp and waiting months for a .22 can make people ask, why am I doing this for a plinker? Especially when the broader NFA picture felt unstable. With approvals speeding up and rules looking clearer in 2025, that little suppressed .22 becomes low risk, high value again. One stamp, easy maintenance, ammo that doesn't hurt your wallet, and it's one of the best tools for teaching fundamentals without noise or recoil scaring people off. All of these guns tell the same story. When rules are clear and wait times are sane, guns that once felt like legal traps go back to being what they were meant to be. Tools you can actually run, not legal test cases.